That's right. This is Mike Delivers, a bonus episode. I'm going to get into my experience with COVID-19, having it, and the experience with it, and just telling people about it, and just try to get the message out. More information on this thing, I think, is a good thing. I want to give a shout out to my guys at the O'Brien Creative Group. They're the ones that helped create my sick-ass logo for Mike Delivers. Make sure to go to o'briencreativegroup.com. You can find them in my show notes as well. Besides the awesome logo they created for me, what I love about these guys is what they do for your brand and give it some great brand identity. Even if you're a podcast, a small business, or a content creator, they give you good direction in trying to get your product out there, especially with social media management. That means the right hashtags, who to tweet, all that stuff on Instagram. I know it can be overwhelming at times. So besides putting together a beautiful logo, they also get you engaged with brand identity and social media management. o'briencreativegroup.com. As I mentioned before, they'll be in the show notes. If you need more information, head on over to my show notes page. That's where you got this podcast, and you can check on their link and their website right now. So I want to do an episode where I talk about having COVID-19, everything that went with it, the timeline, and basically how I'm symptom-free now, feeling great, feeling good, but just to give a little background and some information. Obviously, I have not done Uber Eats in about a month. That's because, I've been sick. And obviously, I'm not doing Uber Eats when I was COVID-19 having it, and, I don't want to do it recently or to get anybody sick. I mean, I think it goes without saying. This is common sense. So on Wednesday, March the 18th, in the middle of the night, is the first time I felt any form of symptoms. It's really late the 17th into the 18th, but for all intents and purposes, basically when the clock struck midnight on Wednesday the 18th is when I had felt sick. The last time I was in the office at work was Monday, the March the 16th. And because of that, we were all working from home. And as a producer, I'm working from home. It was all good. But I definitely had more beer in the house, and I had a couple of drinks the day before. So I had thought to myself, shit, here we go again. And what I mean by that is when I drink a couple of beers, I've had gout, and I don't wish gout on anybody. It's a miserable, terrible experience. It sucks. It feels awful. It's uric acid building up in your joints. You can't move your joints, and it is a terrible, and I mean a terrible feeling to have, just not fun. So I had thought I had gout, and the reason I thought that was not because I was feeling symptoms in my body, but what happens is when I feel sick when I have gout, my body will do this thing where I'll actually get these mini spikes in temperature, and they'll go up, and I'll feel sick in the middle of the night, like flu-like symptoms. I thought I just had gout. So it dawned on me, I woke up around midnight, 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. I was like, shit, I did not take the trash out from the night before. In the past, when I was coming home from work, because I'm getting home around midnight, I go take the trash out. It was part of my routine. But because I had been working from home, it never dawned on me that it was time to take out the trash. So luckily for me, I guess, it did in the middle of the night, so we got the trash out. But just at that moment, I started to not feel great. That's when I started to feel a little off. And that's when I thought I was having a gout symptom. So I started to feel really, really cold. I put on sweatpants, I put on socks, I put on a sweatshirt. Something wasn't right. I like to sleep and basically be in boxers or be in my mesh shorts, no t-shirt, nothing else. So I sleep bare minimum. I like to be as cold as possible. So the fact that I was feeling that cold and had to put on that many layers was a bad sign for me that something was going on and something was happening and something was not right. Could not find a thermometer, did not want to wake my wife up, did not want to disturb her sleep. So I stuck through it, and I found some ibuprofen. And I took the ibuprofen, and it was just like 30 minutes later, felt so much better. I knew I started to feel better because I took the layers off, I took the socks off, I took the sweatshirt off, I took the sweatpants off. Started to feel a ton better. At this point, I had a hunch in my system, probably not gout, but I was holding out hope that it wasn't something more. I did take my flu shot a couple of months earlier, so I was like, this is kind of weird to be feeling this. Hopefully this is gout. The next morning, woke up, felt a lot better. Felt like basically brand new. Back to feeling like myself again, which was great. I was like, okay, everything is all good. Nothing to worry about, hopefully. But the day started to creep on, and my temperature started to go up and up. And the other thing was I was exhausted. I did not want to leave bed. I did not want to do anything but stay in bed and relax. And I was like, ugh, I am lazy today. Felt very lazy. But the temperature kept rising and rising, and I didn't take any Tylenol or anything like that because I wanted to see if this was gout or if I was feeling sick or if I was fine. And once the temperature got up to 101, I was like, I haven't eaten anything all day. I have no appetite, and I am 101 fever. This is not gout. This is not going away. I need to get to a doctor. So the doctor told me to head over to like one of these minute clinic kind of places. That's where they're actually giving out the test. They said, hey, they're giving out the COVID-19 test. You can get it. I was like, okay, great. This is awesome. So I went over there. I signed out all the paperwork, signed everything, which was a creepy experience to begin with because I felt incredibly guilty being near all these people in the office. It's like, I feel sick. They all had masks on. I put a mask on. So, everything was cleanly, wiping down everything as we went along. But still, you're like, I don't know what I have. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the deal. So I felt incredibly terrible about that. But this is their job. This is what they're doing. But shout out to these people in these places that are doing this. Doctors, nurses, people at the front desk. I mean, holy shit, a place you don't want to be in. And when I arrived at the Minute Clinic, I saw a ambulance and a woman. I was like, this is so surreal. This is like not where I want to be right now, but I got to get this thing tested. So I signed it out. I signed up, went in, and they told me, hey, we don't have a COVID test, which was a little surprising because the doctor office on the phone said they did. So there was clearly miscommunication. But at this point, they're like, we'll take your flu test. So I they call me back in. I go into the room. The nurse takes my blood pressure. She then gives me a thermometer, take my temperature. It's 101.8. And I'm like, okay, I'm not good. Like 101.8. And not only was my temperature there, but I felt this sense of just being spaced out. And I don't know if it was a combination of the fact that I did not eat anything earlier in the day or what was going on, but I was like really spacey and I was having weird headaches. And I wasn't sure if that was from the night before of not being able to sleep or it was a product of what was happening with my body that was symptoms that were going on. But I had weird headaches, very spaced out, and a high temperature. Doctor came in and he's like, we don't have the COVID test, but we will give you the flu test. And what was scary too is the person that was with him, I guess the nurse, gave him the wrong Q-tips and they were having a debate about what Q-tips to shove up my nose. I was like, please, I don't like having things shoved up my nose to begin with, but please make sure that whatever you do shove it up with, it is what is being done properly and correctly so you can get my flu test. Flu test takes about 10 minutes to get back. So jammed this Q-tip up both of my nostrils, little twinge, but nothing bad, nothing crazy. Waited 10-15 minutes. At this point, they gave me some Tylenol, which was awesome. That helped me reduce my fever. Came back and said, tests are negative. You don't have the flu. I said, well, what do I do next? Go home and just don't go near anybody. I explained to my wife. They're like, don't go near your wife. So drove right home, got back in the house, quarantined myself in the room. And because the Tylenol just finally kicked in, and this is like at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, I can't even tell you the exact time, but I had not eaten anything all day. Tylenol kicked in, temperature went down between 100 and 101. First time I had an appetite in forever. Woke up the next day, felt a little bit better. Symptoms had gone down a little bit. I think the Tylenol had helped. I was able to get the COVID test for Friday because I had such a high fever at about 102 and my wife's pregnant. I was able to get one, went in line and did this at one of these drive-through COVID testing sites. It was a 1 o'clock test on a Friday, the 20th. Got there at 12:40. I was the first one in line, which was awesome because about 10 to 15 people started to follow in the cars behind me. And I was glad that I got it done first because if I had to watch somebody get the COVID test in front of me, it probably would have freaked me out a little bit. So got in line at 1 o'clock, showed my ID to somebody. This was with the window up, put it on the glass, turned it over, showed the back on the glass, drove down a little bit more, and it was really like a car wash. But instead of getting your car wash, you got the COVID test. It was a drive-through. It really was. And shout out again to the doctors and people there that were setting this up, that were like really putting their life on the line to help people. I can't imagine how somebody working that did not end up sick, especially the person administering the test. if I can say that word right, because they were shoving these sticks down people's noses and throats. Like, how are these people not getting sick? I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is freaky, but got there and it was finally time for the COVID-19 test, and it was a giant long Q-tip. First one went in my throat, was a little tickled, didn't love that. And then boom, right up my right and left nostril, tilted my head back. And it was such a weird sensation because it felt like somebody was tickling my brain. It instantaneously made me tear up. And to deal with the pain, I ended up taking my left hand, and just squeezing my testicle as hard as I could, squeezing my balls, like pinching it really. Not like the whole sack, but just like squeezing the skin, because it just took away from what I was feeling up top. And the doctor was like, I know, I'm sorry, this doesn't feel good. Then he did the flu test again, went back up both nostrils, which was another weird sensation because my nose, it felt like it had been beat up a little bit. Started to tear up. Went down, said 2 to 6 days, drove on my way, went right back home, right back into my room where I was quarantined. Woke up Saturday morning, and of course, I was like, I feel great. I feel so much better. And then my wife started to feel sick, and so much anxiety inducing on that front because she's pregnant, 4.5 months, whatever that is, 16, 17, 18 weeks. And of course, now she's sick. And, we had tried our best to stay away from each other. But at that point, it's like, how do you not get the other person sick? How do you not have that happen? So I got her sick. She was a trooper. She was amazing. She felt some chest pains, some breathing issues, and she had that stuff a lot harder than I did, but I've got to give her a ton of credit. She was amazing, got through it, felt better. She was COVID tested. Of course, we both came back positive. I got my results on the 26th, which was 6 days. It took her. She got her results on the 28th, but at that point, which is interesting, and I've told people, is like when I got my results back on the 26th, that's when people started to feel or started to reach out to me, because then I was able to tell people, like, oh, I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better, which was so sweet. It was great to hear that. But in reality was, I hadn't felt sick really since the 21st. I had felt so much better than I did on the 18th. So by the time you get your results, it's so much further along. So it's a really different world. I mean, it's just a different world. You're waiting and waiting and waiting. So it's just a different feeling of people reaching out to you when you're at the point where I think we feel, I feel good. But of course, with the timeline of everything, that's when people are finding out. And I do appreciate the outpouring of people that reached out to me. So, have felt better since the 21st. Right now, I'm recording this on April the 4th, so it's been 2 weeks. The doctor said really 3 to 7 days since your symptoms are gone, you're free to go back into the world, which is so weird too, because the doctor initially who I talked with at the Minute Clinic spot said, if you feel symptom-free after 3 days, you can go back into the world. Now, because I was COVID tested, and I know I had COVID tested, it's like, I don't feel comfortable 3 days after feeling like that. So the people that administered the COVID test, they were like, if you feel better 7 days later, which makes sense. So it's been at this point now, 2 weeks. So still a weird feeling though, because it's like it's 2 weeks later, but if I see somebody or I'm out in public, which I haven't done, you just like, I don't want to be near you. So it's a weird sensation, but at the same time, it's like, I got to be a human being again. I can't live in my house forever. I can't be like 4 months later, I had COVID. So, at this point, it's out of my system. It's out of my body. But it was a scary couple weeks. And more than anything, just reflecting back on all of it, I feel bad for my wife that I just put her through that. But I'm glad she's healthy. That was more of the scary thing than anything. Feeling sick sucked, but it was the anxiety of how I was going to potentially pass this on to her. And then when she did it, just seeing her in pain was just so hard to watch. And that was difficult. But all is good. I am fine. COVID free now for a couple of weeks. So all is good on that front. But I really wanted to share my story with everybody. So there you have it. Mike delivers. I haven't delivered. Obviously, I'm not going around doing that. But, it's been a weird time. But I wanted to share my story here on the podcast. Take care, everybody.